Okay, welcome everyone to my continuation of what are my favorite theorems, my very biased collection as usual. Today I would like to talk a little bit about a niche topic, maybe. Well, I'm always talking about niche topics in some sense, but it's a really cute one. So stay with me. It's a certain type of, well, geometric group theory. Not really. It's a geometry of group theory, geometry of group actions, and comes in the form of a fun name. So the so-called IBIS groups. Whatever these are. Of course, I'm going to explain what these are. So I think of them as perfectly broken symmetries. So group theory is the study of symmetries, and here we are studying the groups that kind of perfectly break symmetry. So kind of the opposite in some sense. Not really, as we will see. So stay with me here. But it's really about beautiful like group actions on finite spaces, like polyhedra and all that fun stuff. It's a lot of fun and mostly widely open as well, as I can tell. Okay, quite a new topic. So I think of a permutation group. For me, it's just a subgroup of the symmetric group. So here, given in the usual notation, and it acts on a certain space, which in this case is a tetrahedron, where I label the vertices A, B, C, whatever, up to F. And AF, for example, takes the tetrahedron and puts it on its bottom to top. So it changes. So this one here, for example, just swaps A and F. That's the notation here. BDCE is a rotation around the middle, and then there's another rotation thingy around the middle as well. But anyway, a permutation group for me is a subset of a symmetric group acting by permutations on some geometric object. And the geometric object I really have in mind is not really this one. It's just easy to illustrate, but I take A and F and pull them out a little bit. So I break a few of the symmetries. So I have this irregular pulling out top and bottom type of octahedron here. And that's really where I act on. And all the symmetries still make sense because those three are really just doing something in the middle, right? And the other two are just swapping bottom and top, which still makes sense. But there's no symmetry anymore, for example, swapping E and F, because I broke that symmetry. To make my life a bit easier, the group is a little bit smaller. So S of the irregular octahedron on this side is exactly this permutation group generated by those elements. And again, I think of them as being just operating in the indicated way on the geometric object. And now I'm going to destroy the symmetry, and that's the whole point. So I take this space. I can do this with any space. I just took this one because it's kind of reasonably small, and still we'll see what's going on. Okay, what I will do is the following. I fix in order A, B, C, meaning I don't allow them to move. Okay, they are fixed. And this is like breaking the symmetries if I don't allow them to move. So if I fix A, for example, and we're really in this picture, but I kind of like to think of this picture. Anyway, if I fix A, then my first symmetry clearly dies. If A is fixed, then I can't swap it with F anymore. There's no other operation I can do to A because we are here, remember? So there's no other operation I can do to F. So this symmetry dies. And if I fix B, then actually the B ones die as well, but there's still the composition CD, so I need to fix C as well, and the final thing dies. And my remaining object here, where A, B, C are fixed, it has no symmetries at all anymore, right? So that's what I mean. It's a basis. So a basis is on my geometric object, I fix a certain, in this case, vertices, and then the symmetry is broken. Then I call it a basis. So I fix, obviously, if I fix all vertices, the symmetry will be broken, but the basis is kind of the minimal one. And that's why I call it, or it's called irredundant if you can't omit anything, right? Of course, I could fix A, B, C, D, E, F, but that's not irredundant. Okay, so I want an irredundant basis of this thing. It's kind of the minimal number of symmetries I need to break in order for there to be no symmetries at all anymore. And this is my breaking symmetries game. Okay, let's have another one. So let's say I fix F, E, C in that order. Okay, I fix F, again, this one dies. I fix C, well, those two die. Sorry, I fix E, so those two die, but then there's still this one, so I fix C and this one dies as well. Again, here I haven't marked F for some reasons. F should be marked on this side in purple. Give me a second, I only have this violet version of purple, which is really pathetic. I want purple. Anyway, of course, I could just set it up, but maybe not now. Anyway, so here's another basis, and it's again irredundant, so I can't omit any vertex. And breaking symmetries in perfection is the following statement. You always, in this case, need to fix 3 vertices to break a symmetry. All irredundant bases of size 3 in this case. You need, in order to break all symmetries, you always need the same number of steps. And for the groups where this is true, they are called irredundant bases of invariant size. So that's where the IBIS name comes from. And I think this name is just made up because IBIS just sounds nice. Anyway, the point is these groups are kind of very special because they have a real notion of basis in the terms of breaking symmetries, because you always need to fix the same number of vertices in this example. You always need to break the same number of symmetries in order to break all symmetries. And these are called IBIS bases. And the theorem is they exist, but by far not all groups are of this type. And I just pull up here the animal in case you care. This one is the Australian one. So I'm in Sydney right now, and if you go outside, you'll see them like everywhere. They really like garbage bins. So if you find a garbage bin, you will find one of them as well. They're really good friends. So those IBIS birds, Australian white ibis, I think that's what they're called. Don't quote me on that. But anyway, and garbage bins they're really, really good friends. Anyway, and kind of fun story here. So certainly not all groups are ibis, and the classification is like wildly open. But a group is ibis only if and only if it comes from a matroid in a certain sense. So again, matroids make their appearance here. So so most of these groups, the classification, as I said, is much open. So we don't really know a lot about them, but you can always construct them from matroids, from certain matroids. For which ones is, again, an open problem. And this is kind of a nice topic. And here's an example of something that is not of this form. So here above, I have 2 irredundant bases, A, B, D. So if I fix A, I can't swap with F anymore. If I fix B, I can't swap with C anymore. If I fix D, I can't swap with E anymore. So this is irredundant. But this one is also irredundant because as soon as I have fixed B and D, I can't swap A and F anymore. So I have 2 irredundant bases of different size. So the corresponding symmetry group of this object is not of the IBIS form. So most of groups are actually not of this form. And it's kind of a fun open question to kind of classify them in a certain sense. Anyway, I talked a lot about, maybe not a lot, but a little bit about how those funny birds like garbage bins. So if you ever see them in close to a garbage bin, don't be surprised. They really like them. Anyway, but I was really talking about groups, a kind of a fun concept about groups, because groups usually correspond to me to some symmetry of some space. Well, that's a group. But now we are looking at those which are kind of built such that you can easily break the symmetries of the space. Maybe I shouldn't say easily, but perfectly break the symmetries of the space in the sense that you always need the same number of steps to do so. And kind of the fun fact is they, again, in a slightly open way, so we don't really understand, but they correspond to matroids in a precise way, but it's a little bit difficult to say what matroids arise. So that's what I meant before. Anyway, so those groups correspond to matroids, which I find very surprising. There's no mention of a matroid anywhere in my video except for those groups correspond to matroids. So it's not so easy to see. It's also not so difficult if you know what to do, but it's not so easy if you just making it up from scratch is really, really difficult. And that's why the theorem that they exist and actually come from matroids is really one of my favorites. That's why it's on this list, I guess. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I also hope to see you next time.